Breaking news. Kim Jong Un's meeting with Vladimir Putin poses danger to the world, as one expert put it. According to Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Birmingham, the upcoming meeting between Kim Jong Un and Vladimir Putin could embolden both men. The North Korean leader is currently en route to Russia when he made these remarks. That is something that is dangerous for the world, Mr. Birmingham told Sky News Australia. After Putin's comments about using nuclear weapons against Ukraine, he said the two remain a serious threat. This is why we must maintain our commitment to helping Ukraine achieve its maximum potential. On Tuesday, June 27, 2023, in Whistler, British Columbia, Premier Scott Moe of Saskatchewan listens during a news conference. The government of Moe has accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of harming relations with India and failing to include the provinces in trade negotiations. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe and his government have accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of harming relations with India and failing to consult with the provinces about trade negotiations. Saskatchewan Trade Minister Jeremy Harrison wrote to Premier Scott Moe on Monday, arguing that by picking a fight with India, Trudeau is risking access to one of his province's most important export markets for domestic political gain. When it comes to the exports and trade of commodities produced in Western Canada, it is very difficult to come to any other conclusion that your government has once again put its own domestic political interests ahead of the national economic interest, Harrison wrote. In an interview with the Canadian press, Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma said that Ottawa had requested a temporary halt to early progress trade agreement negotiations within the last month. Harrison wrote that his peers have had a complete lack of updates on the negotiations since at least late July, and that the news shocked business leaders. It is unacceptable to our government that we learned of the delay in EPTA negotiations through the media 1 week ago and have received no explanation from the Government of Canada since then, Harrison writes in his letter dated September 8. To which he replied, clearly, what your government has done has put the already strained Canada-India relationship in even further peril after some improvement following the Prime Minister's disastrous trip to India in 2018, referring to the fact that Trudeau was ridiculed for wearing traditional outfits and for inviting a convicted terrorist to a reception he hosted in India. According to Harrison, it is standard practice for provinces and territories to be represented at the negotiating table. When Harrison wrote to Trade Minister Mary Ng in late July to inquire about the status of the negotiations, he allegedly received no response. Ng's office said she would make a statement in response to Harrison's letter later that afternoon, but the Liberals have offered no explanation for why they ordered a halt in trade talks. We know free trade negotiations are long and complex, and I won't say any more, Trudeau told reporters last Friday in Singapore. Saskatchewan is responsible for over a third of Canada's annual $1 billion plus in exports to India. Lentils are one example of a commodity that has been subject to occasional delays or complete shutdowns by India as the country experiments with new pest control policies. The External Affairs Ministry of India reported that during Trudeau's brief meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi this past weekend, Modi voiced serious concerns to Trudeau about the anti-India activities of extremist elements in Canada, in particular the efforts of Sikh separatists to carve out a state they call Khalistan from India. Ottawa included topics like economic growth, aid for low-income countries, and reforming global financial institutions in its summary of the meeting, but India's readout did not. Trudeau told the media that he was worried about interference from any country, including India, and that people of all backgrounds in Canada have the right to express themselves freely. Canada has been accused by India of providing safe haven to extremists for quite some time, despite repeated denials on the part of the Canadian government. Posters calling India's diplomats in Canada killers, and asking for their addresses contributed to an escalation of tensions this spring. Next month, Ng will head a trade mission to India with companies from Canada. According to Human Rights Watch, the Modi government has presided over a serious regression in human rights and constitutional protections, with attacks on Muslims and other minorities going unpunished and restrictions placed on the press.